Chapter 45. Isabella lied? Why would she do that? Despite the dust filling his lungs and the impending death teetering above his head, Bach could think of nothing else. He knew how troubled he had been by Tovano's revelation, how painful it was to think his parents had deceived him his entire life. His head spun as though he might faint, for reasons beyond just the thinning air. Isabella sighed deeply. Aventil and Kotarian knew nothing of this, so please, do not blame them for my deception. Tovano and I lied to you to protect one of our kingdom's oldest secrets. For centuries, our people have believed that only those of noble class birth can be born with the ability to perform high magic. Such a belief has been foundational for our society. We, the noble class, rule benevolently because we were endowed with a potential that others do not possess. Everyone has an important role to perform, and all classes are valued parts of our society. But the noble class leads because we earned that right, and our control of high magic is proof of that mandate. That is what we all were raised to believe. She looked down, even more defeated than she had been looking at her father imprisoned by Solandrian's spell. But the truth is, Bork, that people from all classes, including those of the serving class, may be born with the acumen to perform high magic. You were. We in the royal family have hidden the truth for generations. It is shameful and wrong. My ancestors believed allowing non-nobles to practice magic would undermine Imerinia's strict social order, and every king and queen since that time has kept that secret, for fear of upending that system. Kotarian exploded at Isabella's revelation. By Chalandrian's chaining chastity! Do you realize what you are saying? The entire foundation of the House of Magic is built on a deception. How do you know these things, when I have never even heard such whispers? Forget your House of Magic. Isabella, how could you keep such a terrible secret from me? Aventil looked to Isabella, who kept her eyes turned to the stone floor. My father told me in private, and only within recent weeks, she said. It is the most closely guarded secret of our kingdom. The only people who know are my father, the emissary of magic, and Tovano, who apparently discovered the truth on his own many years ago. Because if this became public knowledge, if the people knew their monarchs had lied to them for centuries, it could rend Imerinia apart. But by the Exalted One, why now? Aventil exclaimed, when we are in such a life-or-death predicament. Because I owe Bork the truth. With a shaky finger she pointed to the stunned healer. I should have told him, told everyone sooner. But after all the four of us have experienced together, I cannot go to my death having lied to the people I love. Bach put his hands over his face, unable to process what he was being told. He was not a baron, not a long-lost son of some distant noble. He was who he had always believed, a blacksmith's boy from Sola Valley. Serving class, yet born with the acumen for high knowledge. Impossible. But it also seemed impossible that his friend, the woman he had fallen in love with over the course of this journey, would betray him so deeply. So I'm not... No, Bok. I am truly sorry. This is why I was upset when you discovered the ability to perform high magic. I knew I would have to lie to you, and I did not want to do that. Please forgive me, my friend. My friend? What type of friend lied about something so important? How many others in the serving class had lived and died never knowing they possessed the acumen for high magic? How would their lives, and the lives of their families and communities, been better if they had known? And what does it say about me that I was tempted to accept such a falsehood, to turn my back on all that I am, to believe the worst about my parents? Isabella isn't the only one who should be ashamed. Bach took a low, ragged breath, his hand still covering his face. Isabella tugged at his sleeve. Bach, say something, please. Hate me if you must, but please talk to me. He was not willing to give her comfort, or forgive himself. What he had to offer, however, was a desperate plan of escape. Listen, none of this matters. Not now, anyway. We need to get out of this death trap. If we don't, no one will be around to care who lied to whom. Obviously, Kotarian said. But how do you propose we move that heap of rock and rubble when all three of us failed before? We use the transmission spell. Bach slammed his fist into the palm of his hand. Tovano told me about it. It's our only hope of escape. The transmission spell? Ritovian's rapid relocation? Bach, that only works on non-living matter. I realize you don't know. I do know, Kotarian, and it will work on living beings. It isn't used because of the risks. At this point, that's a chance I am willing to take. I do not want to die in this hole. Bach is correct, Kotarian. Isabella finally looked up. This will be dangerous. We could transmit into a solid wall and die instantly. But we must try. Oh, Bach, you have given us hope. Bach didn't respond to Isabella directly. So what do we do now? I don't know the spell, just that it could work. Kotarian exhaled deeply. I am ashamed to admit, but I do not know this spell either. I could perform 101 different spells flawlessly, but the one spell we need, I do not know. I know it. Isabella slapped the dust-covered stone floor, her jaw set. Tovano taught me the transmission spell. Obviously, I have never used it on any living being, much less a person, but I can cast it. Kotarian smiled. I can assist you. I may not know the spell, but I understand the concepts well enough to provide support. But to transport all four of us, you will need Baron Blacksmith to provide us with additional energy too. Bach nodded, then stepped back as far as he could in the small space. Isabella and Kotarian did the same, forming a triangle around Aventil. The merchant's son looked at the mass above their heads. The trickle of dirt and pebbles falling from the ceiling spilled faster. Whatever you do, you need to do it now. The roof is starting to give. Think of the place you know better than any other, the place where you feel most safe and comfortable, Isabella said, to herself as much as anyone. She then moved her hands in an elliptical pattern and spoke words older than the kingdom itself. Greenish-blue energy filled the small nook. Kotarian added a few words and energy flowed from his body into Isabella's. Bach repeated the words that Kotarian chanted and transmitted his own magical energy to the princess, who used it to power her developing spell. Bach immediately felt weak and lightheaded, both from the lack of oxygen and the drain of the spell. But he forced himself to stay on his feet and continued to pour his dwindling supply of energy to Isabella. Then the rocks and dirt disappeared. Even the smell of earth vanished, as did the sensation of being buried alive. The dark passage transformed into a brightly lit tunnel with smooth green-blue walls. Isabella, Aventil, and Kotarian were there, but bathed in a bright white light that quickly grew more and more intense. Within moments, he could not see his friends, only the auras surrounding them. Bach wondered if he had blacked out. Isabella, or the bright light containing her, then shot down the tunnel at rapid speed, pulling Aventil with her. Kotarian followed closely behind. To Bach, his friends appeared to be three streaks of light, growing smaller by the instant. He willed himself forward. To his surprise, he moved rapidly through the tunnel. Bach assumed that if he could see himself through the glare, he would see that he, too, was surrounded by an aura of white light. He didn't even need to steer himself down the tunnel. As Isabella turned and moved, so did he, joined as they were by the spell's bond. Bach lost all sense of time and distance. He had no idea of how far he traveled or how long the journey took. But within minutes, or perhaps just a millisecond, the tunnel's end appeared. It took the shape of a swirling gray mass, bright but completely without form or detail. Isabella and Aventhyl disappeared into the gray, followed closely by Kotarian. Bach raced forward. He couldn't stop or avoid the tunnel's end, even if he wished to. The shifting cloud of energy drew closer, and then he disappeared. Dun dun dun.